It was an ordinary afternoon in a quiet American town when something extraordinary happened. A moment so simple, yet so powerful, that it left a lasting impression on everyone who witnessed it. Amid the bustle of a local event, a disabled little girl, her movements slow and uncertain, approached Karoline Leavitt. With visible effort and quiet determination, she asked for something many take for granted: a bit of food. What followed was not just an act of kindness, but a wave of emotion that rippled through the crowd, reminding everyone of the strength it takes to ask and the beauty of answering with compassion. Karoline Leavitt, a young political figure known more for her speeches than for quiet gestures, was caught off guard. But without hesitation, she knelt down to meet the girl at eye level, gently taking her hand. There was no camera flash, no podium, just two people, one asking, the other listening. Onlookers paused. Conversations stopped mid-sentence. In that moment, the girl's vulnerability met Karoline's humanity, and the air felt charged with something rare: pure empathy. Karoline asked the little girl her name, but the child's speech was soft, almost inaudible. Still, she smiled. Her eyes, filled with both hope and hesitation, said what words could not. Karoline motioned to a volunteer and made sure the girl was given a warm meal, not just a quick bite, but a full plate carefully chosen. After the meal, Karoline sat with her a few more minutes, asking simple questions, listening intently, as if the rest of the world had vanished. The girl's mother, standing nearby, had tears in her eyes. "She doesn't talk to many people," she whispered, "but she wanted to come here today. She said she liked Karoline's voice on TV." No one knew what the girl had gone through to make it to that event. No one knew the deeper struggles she and her family faced. But her small act of courage and Karoline's quiet response left a mark on every witness. And the story didn't end there. Later that night, Karoline shared a short message on social media. No names, no photos, just a few lines about being humbled by a child's bravery. The post quietly went viral. People across the country responded with messages of love, offers of help, and reflections on what it means to truly see one another. Some asked, "Who is that little girl? Can we help her?" Others said, "We need more moments like this." And Karoline? She didn't say much more. But sources close to her say she's been trying to find ways to quietly stay in touch with the girl's family, not for publicity, but because the moment moved her too. The little girl's name hasn't been made public, and her journey is still unfolding. But what she sparked, a wave of human warmth in a divided time, has already begun to spread. The story isn't over yet. In the weeks that followed, the story of the little girl continued to echo quietly through online communities and whispered conversations in small towns. Though her name was still unknown to the public, many people began referring to her simply as the brave girl. One morning, a handwritten letter arrived at Karoline Leavitt's office. The handwriting was uneven, with some letters shaky and misshapen. It was from the girl's mother. "She talks about you every day," the letter read. "She says you made her feel important, not just because you fed her, but because you listened. Thank you. You made her believe her voice matters." Karoline, deeply moved, read the letter aloud to her team. For the first time in weeks, the usual political strategy sessions paused, replaced by a moment of silence. Then, slowly, Karoline folded the letter and placed it in her notebook. "We're going to visit them," she said softly, "but not with cameras. Just us. Arrangements were made quietly. A few days later, Karoline and one close aide drove hours through quiet back roads to a small town, where the family lived in a modest apartment complex near the edge of a wooded park. The girl was waiting at the door. She wore a lavender sweater, slightly oversized, with a small ribbon in her hair. When she saw Karoline, her eyes lit up, not with surprise, but with recognition, as if she had always believed this day would come. They spent the afternoon together. Karoline sat on the floor with her, building small wooden puzzles. The girl's laugh, though soft, was unshakably sincere. Her disabilities made movement difficult, but she radiated joy just to be seen. Her mother shared more of their story: a rare illness, expensive treatments, long nights in the ER, and a dream. Someday the girl wanted to write stories, maybe even help other kids like her feel less alone. That evening, as the sun began to dip below the trees, Karoline stood by the window with the girl's mother. "She's going to change people," Karoline said quietly. The mother smiled, tired but proud. "She already has." No formal promises were made, no press releases issued, but something unspoken passed between them, an understanding that this meeting was not the end, but the beginning of something. Since then, small changes have started to ripple out. A local community group has offered tutoring support. A bookstore donated children's books with large print and audio options. And a few staffers in Karoline's office are looking into how policies might be shaped around accessibility for children with special needs. Not out of political interest, but personal conviction. As for the little girl, she now keeps a photo near her bed, one that Karoline gave her, with a short handwritten note on the back. "You matter. Don't stop speaking up." And though the world moves quickly, the people who saw that moment, who felt it stir something inside them, haven't forgotten. This story, hers, Karoline's, and all those it has touched, is still being written. Months passed. Spring had arrived quietly in the little town where the girl lived. Trees budded along the sidewalk, and soft golden light filtered through the windows of the modest apartment she called home. Though her condition hadn't changed, something in her spirit had. There was a new rhythm in her days. Books beside her bed, gentle piano melodies playing from an old speaker, and now, a small, second-hand laptop donated by a stranger who'd heard about the brave little girl who asked for food and touched the hearts of a nation. She began to type. At first, just words she liked. Hope, River, Karoline. Then short lines like poetry only she could understand. Her mother watched from the kitchen, quietly moved. It was the first time her daughter had sat that long, focused, without being coaxed. One evening, the girl asked, "Can I write a story?" Her mother blinked back tears and nodded. "Of course you can." Meanwhile, Karoline Leavitt was going through changes of her own. Public life remained demanding, but her encounters with the girl had shifted her perspective. She began speaking more openly, at small town halls, in hushed interviews, about the hidden stories of children with disabilities, families fighting silently, overlooked by policy and public attention. Some criticized her shift in tone. Others called it political. But those who had been in the crowd that day, the ones who saw the girl ask for food with trembling hands, knew better. Karoline wasn't changing course for politics. She was following the quiet compass of her own heart. And then, one spring morning, a package arrived at her office. Inside was a single printed page. Typed in large, spaced-out letters was a short story, barely 300 words long. At the top, in bold, shaky font, "The Girl and the Star." It told of a little girl who lived in the dark, unable to walk like others, unheard when she cried. One night, a star fell from the sky, not loud, not fiery, just gentle, and sat beside her. The star didn't promise miracles. It only listened, and that was enough to make the girl brave. Karoline read it in silence. When she finished, she pressed the page to her chest. No speech, no tweet could capture what she felt. Later that week, with permission from the girl's mother, Karoline shared the story at a small children's library event. She didn't reveal the author's name, only calling her a young writer who sees the world with more heart than most adults. That day, a few librarians made calls. A children's author in Boston offered to mentor the girl by video. A foundation quietly offered to cover her speech therapy for a year. And across social media, people began to ask, "What's the next story?" But the girl didn't write for attention. She wrote because someone had made her believe her voice mattered. The laptop stays open now most afternoons. Her mother says she smiles more. She hums when she types. The world is still hard. Appointments, medicine, long nights, but somehow, there's light threading through it now. And somewhere in her notebook, in the back pages, she's begun a new story. The title? The Girl Who Was Heard. And it too is not yet finished. A year had passed since the day she first reached out for food with trembling hands. That moment, so small in time, but vast in meaning, had become a quiet thread woven into the lives of many. Not just hers, not just Karoline's, but of countless others who had, in one way or another, found themselves reflecting on kindness, courage, and the unexpected power of being seen. The girl was older now, if only by months. Her limbs still stiffened in the cold, and her speech still came slowly. But there was new strength behind her words. Her eyes no longer looked down when she entered a room. And in her community, she had come to be known not by her condition, but by her stories. She had written 3 now, all short, all simple, all filled with wonder. Karoline had kept every one of them in a small wooden box on her desk. When days grew too heavy, when political noise drowned out clarity, she would read them, quietly, alone. And then came the invitation. A small conference for young writers in Washington, D.C. had heard about The Girl and the Star. They wanted her to attend, to read aloud, to share. At first, the girl hesitated. She had never spoken before so many. But then she remembered that day, how scared she had been to ask for food, and how someone had listened. That memory, still glowing gently in her heart, told her, "You can do this." So they went, her mother, her in a wheelchair dressed in a soft pink dress, and a little notebook in her lap. And when her name was called, the room fell into stillness. She began slowly, her voice unsteady but sure. Word by word, sentence by sentence, she read her story to a room full of strangers. No one moved. No one blinked. Some wept. When she finished, there was silence, just for a breath, and then a wave of applause, rising like sunlight through a window. Karoline was there too, standing quietly in the back. No cameras, no stage, just a woman who had once looked a frightened child in the eye and listened. Afterward, the girl was asked what she wanted to be. She smiled. I already am, she said, a storyteller. And that was it. Not a grand ending. No fireworks. Just a girl, now heard, now seen, and forever brave. Some stories don't end. They simply become part of the world, echoing in quiet kindnesses, in handwritten notes, in the courage to speak, and the grace to listen. This was one of them, and it will live on,